Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Source Code Closet. I am Taylor and this is...
I am Taz. Hello.
That works too. And today we're going to be talking about not game design, concept art. What comes before anything, what is the predecessor to everything. Because you gotta figure out what type of game it is.
You gotta know what you're making before you make it.
Exactly, just like a fine cake.
And that is a good comparison.
It is also a lie.
It is also very much a lie.
So would you like...
I'm pretty sure cake planners plan out their cake before they make it.
Yeah, they have to draw out the designs and stuff, which is what you have to do with concept art.
Yeah, that was good. I told you it was a good comparison.
Yeah, good segue.
Yeah.
So
we're professionals.
Yeah, on our second episode. Yep. So before
we know what we're doing.
Yeah, before you go ahead with developing the game, you have to start with the bare basics, designing,
bare minimum,
or conceptualizing. So you have to design. You have to think, will your game be
brainstorming?
Yes, will your
really
game be
thinking the big brain?
Will it be a platformer? A side scroller, point and click.
Will it be spooky? Will it be extra spooky? How about a bit of scary in there?
Will it be a Gundam game? Who knows?
Will it be? It could be a rhythm game with pretty bad music, but at least the gameplay's good.
Yeah, it could be a bridge constructor game, or it could be a bad ripoff of a hit game from from '98 and have bad characters. But we're not talking about Hunt Down the Freeman today.
We don't talk about. We only talk about that every episode.
It'll be the recurring joke.
No. What are you talking about? No. Shut up.
Shh, run the secret.
Shut up. Okay, so how about you take us away? You start us off.
All right. So, you've already decided what your game will be. Let's just say it's a platformer. You got to think of level design. What obstacles will be with the going around with it, and what enemies there will be. Example, Mario. You have the Goombas, the Koopas, and whatever other enemies there are in the other world.
Piranha plants. Bombs, the bullet bills, all those ones.
Chain chomps.
Chain chomps. Now, of course, you can't think of all of these things in the first area of concept. Of course, some things won't come to you at first, but you gotta have the baseline at least. So, let's say, for example, you want to make a platformer. I think that's what we're going with now.
Yep.
And now you don't want this to be a stock, run-of-the-mill generic platform. You want to have something special about it. So how about in this platformer, we need to come up with something original.
Have it switch from 2D to 3D every time you go into a little cave or something.
How about you could press a button and it changes from 2D to 3D?
Yes. Smooth transition.
How about that? Okay, so now that we have a pretty unique concept down pat, doesn't have to be completely original, of course, but unique enough. So now that we have that down pat, we gotta talk about level design. So what are some interesting interactions that you could get from having a level that can be simultaneously in 2D and 3D? So we gotta think about, in this 2D space, obviously you go from side to side, but in this 3D space, how would you do it? Does it move the camera up at a diagonal so you can see above, and you can move around through the level, and then when you go back to 2D, it cuts out a slice of the level? Or do you want to have it so you can manipulate things in a 3D environment, and that would influence the 2D environment?
Yes. The 3D influencing 2D is something you probably never see. Maybe there's a few things, but that's very unique. Thanks for thinking of that. I think
that we could have a 2D and 3D platformer where you can swap between it. And then when you go into 3D space, you can move the character horizontally through the stage, and then once you put them and go back into 2D, it cuts out the slice. So let's say So now that we have like a thing down, we gotta think about level design. So a nice interaction for level design would be like in the 2D space, there's the floor and a wall separating from you and the objective. But in the 3D space, the wall is not that wide. So what you can do is you can move the character, like, let's say, backwards, I guess, relatively. And when you go back in the 2D space, because it cuts out a slice of the level, the wall wouldn't be there anymore, so you could walk through. Sort of like Paper Mario, I guess.
Yeah.
So now that's a thing. That's a pretty cool concept. So now, once you have a pretty cool concept down, and some pretty cool interactions with that concept down, you could really start it just railroads and snowballs down from there.
Yep.
Once you get one idea, it just comes naturally, an idea, one after the other.
Quote, quote, naturally.
Quote, quote, naturally. Of course, you're going to have to do some thinking. You can't just, like, it's not just like, oh, this would be pretty cool, I guess.
Yeah. Now that we have covered level design, it is time to get to the most convoluted thing, probably in the whole concept universe, character design. Now, trust me, it is not easy to do character design. I mean, it is very hard.
I mean, yeah, it's character design is some of the hardest thing. That's why there's, like, literal people whose jobs are just to design characters.
Yes. And even I draw and all that. I don't get paid, but even if I'm sitting there, like, I want to draw something new, I want to draw a new character, I sit there for hours thinking, like, drawing, undoing the line, and just thinking and thinking and thinking, but then nothing comes. So you have to just go with the first thought, which is what most people do. But some people have creativity in character design. Or, like, it just did 2 seconds, they got a design. That's easy. But it's really not that easy.
Now, it's their job to do it, so.
I mean, even if it is your job.
If it is their job. You know, some people are just naturally gifted to their things, some people aren't. And most of the time it just comes from practice. Like, if you design a lot of characters, you just know, like, what the good parts of a character are, and you could build off of that.
Yeah, and if you have an outline of the character, let's say brown hair, glasses, and I don't know, a black shirt. Mm-hmm. You've got a pretty good outline of the character. But that's not. You have to think of a hairstyle, glasses type, shirt type, everything.
Like, that's like just a bare bones description that you'd see on a book or something. But we're operating in a visual space, so
exactly.
That's pretty tough. So another thing that I want to add to character design is that it's pretty good to also help and take inspiration from sources that are already pre-existing. So, like, if you wanted to, you're like, oh, this unused character from a game that I like, it looks pretty cool. So I might just, like, take that, modify it a bit, and implement it into my own game. Now, of course, this can go bad.
Like we see in Hunt Down the Freeman with Mitchell, Nick, Adam, the weird hybrid monsters that you have to
like they took
kill,
the
but you can't.
Yeah, like they took and also those monsters where they took the 3 unused concepts from Half-Life enemies and just melded them into one.
And with Mitchell, they just recycled one of the characters from Metal Gear Solid Phantom Pain.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they used the models for that too. Look like way too similar. But I don't know. Maybe they did it on their own. I don't know.
So, like, yeah, it's good to take inspiration from other sources and media, but keyword inspiration. Like, don't rip the assets and don't, like, just outright copy someone else's design. Take inspiration from it. And obviously, just because something looks cool doesn't mean it'll fit the vibe of your game. Like, let's say you're making a survival horror game and you see this really cool monster. That's like, oh, that looks pretty cool. But it's like a sci-fi monster and you're operating in a fantasy world. So that wouldn't really make any sense if it's there. Like, sure, it looks epic and I would really like that to have it in the game, but not this game.
Yeah, like the Tremor, no, the worms from Tremors. You wouldn't want to see those in, like, let's say, a Kingdom Hearts game.
Yeah.
Most people would not want to see that.
Because, like, you got, like, every game has a certain style. Every game has a certain vibe. Every game has a certain theme. So you gotta have things that fit the theme. Like, if you have a low poly asset that is intentionally designed in a low poly way in a hyper realistic game, unless it's a joke weapon or an Easter egg, that would not fit and it would not make sense.
Yeah, like that hamburger from Cyberpunk. I don't know where it's at. I remember seeing it. It's like that one hamburger. It's got like low poly. It's just there, in plain sight.
To be fair, it is an open world game, and it's put in a spot that most people wouldn't look. But once you notice it, it's really hard to not notice.
Yeah, it's unseeable.
So, like, be careful with your low poly assets, people. So let's get back on track. Concepts and how to start brainstorming game ideas. Like, so once you got, like, the whole character design, level design, all that stuff down pat, you gotta think about the enemies. Now, enemies are kind of in a weird spot because they're important to character and level design. But you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah.
So, enemies are really important to balancing levels, having appropriate obstacles, and all that stuff. But you also want them to be designed so they're pretty obvious in their function. Like, I really like this example from Hollow Knight. One of the first enemies you encounter, I forget its exact name, but it's like this beetle, and it has a shell with spikes on with, like, quote unquote spikes on its back. Now, originally, this enemy did not have spikes on its back, so the playtesters thought they could jump on it, like in Super Mario, even though if you did, it'd hurt you. So what Team Cherry did, is they went back and reworked its art so to have more pronounced spikes on the back of it, so that players would realize, hey, wait, this thing has spikes on its back, maybe I shouldn't jump on it.
Yeah.
So you have to design your enemies with a purpose. You can't just be like, oh, this thing looks like that because it does, you know? So, like, if, like, you can't have a guy with a gun. Like, let's say you're making a FPS or kind of game, and you have an enemy designed to have a gun, right? But they don't use it, and they stab you. That doesn't really make sense, because if they have a gun, why don't they just shoot you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's such a common thing, surprisingly. Because if you go in certain games, I think in the Metal Gear series they do that. I don't know. I've not played Metal Gear in who knows how long. But I know there are some enemies who do it in Hunt Down the Freeman. I am not going to get off this game's back. I'm not bragging on it.
Like, another example of pretty good enemy design is, well, I wouldn't say pretty good, but more like iconic enemy design. Like the creeper from Minecraft.
Oh
like,
my god.
Looking at it, you don't really know what it does. And it's sort of just like a green stick walking around. You're like, maybe I should stay away from that thing because that thing looks weird. But because the creeper is so iconic in pop culture and just internet culture in general, even people who never played Minecraft in their life know what a creeper is. So, like, people already sort of know that, oh, stay away from creeper, they blow up, you know? So I guess that's kind of, that community does enemy design. It's a weird phenomenon where, like, people know what something does already, so it doesn't matter what it looks like because people already know what it does.
Yes.
So, like, if you make an apple, it doesn't really, like, an apple item in the game. If it's called an apple, you don't really have to design it so that it looks like an apple. People already know, hey, this is an apple, I can eat it.
Sustenance.
Now it could be a rotten apple, and as you name something rotten apple, they were like, hey, wait a minute, I could eat this, but it'd probably be bad for me. Or like a rotten food item. Like,
yeah,
just
like
because
rotten flesh in Minecraft.
Yeah.
If you don't have
Rotten
any
flesh in
food,
Minecraft.
you've got rotten flesh, you eat it, but you have serious repercussions. You get poisoned badly.
No, you get hunger.
I thought you get poisoned. You get poisoned from it too.
No, you get poisoned from spider eyes.
You can eat spider eyes?
Yes.
Oh god. The more you know.
The more you know. Okay, so so like rotten flesh. Rotten flesh isn't a thing that exists in real life. Well, it is, but it's not something that occurs that someone would occur and walk into regularly. So, but because it's rotten flesh, you're like, maybe I shouldn't put this in my mouth.
Yeah.
Right? Or like raw chicken in Minecraft again.
Oh, no.
Like everyone knows that raw chicken, well, for the most part, everyone knows that raw chicken can give you food poisoning. So people would be like, I have this raw chicken. I shouldn't eat it now. I should cook it so I don't get food poisoning because raw chicken can poison you in Minecraft.
Yeah.
So it's really weird how like interactions like with items and enemy design is, because they're really integral to the game, but you have to design them in a sort of way that communicates what they do. But if it's already established, like normally in culture and just life in general, what they do, you can kind of be really creative with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, guess what? We've hit the
What?
midway mark.
We hit the midway mark. Okay,
It's
so
time
that, you know what that
for
means.
Gossip Glutton.
Okay, so I got the Gossip Glutton this time.
Yes, you
So
do.
the first thing is that Brackies is actually hosting their first game jam of the year 2021, and the theme is being decided on as we speak by the community in their Discord server, and will be finalized in about a week. And the themes are as follows: Alone Together, Location Rotation Scale, Stay Positive, Stronger Together, Forbidden Entry, Blending Old and New, Recycling But Bad, and finally, the end is just a book with a new. The end of a book is just a new chapter.
Yeah.
So, what do you think is gonna win?
I have no idea. It's really up to the people.
Yeah, I think I'm holding hope that Recycling But Bad wins. 'Cause that
What do you
seems
think? What do you think that one's about?
like recycling but bad.
Like, whenever you recycle a plastic bottle,
I don't know. Recycling but bad.
but bad.
But bad.
That makes sense.
I think it's a pretty interesting concept that would make for really interesting games. Cause like, all of these are sort of like kind of already done, but recycling but bad. I haven't really seen any of that.
Yeah.
Alone Together, that's just a survival horror game with like a companion. Location Rotation Scale, physics puzzles. Stay Positive, wholesome game. Stronger Together, co-op. Forbidden Entry, horror game. Blending Old and New, like a retro game with new mechanics.
Half-Life
The end
2.
of a book, the end of the end of a book is just a new chapter. That's just the sequel to a game that never existed. Recycling but bad. What?
It's just out of the blue. Just
Yeah, it's
recycling but bad.
Yeah, recycling but bad. Go. So I hold hope that this is gonna win just because it's super like weird and interesting. And I think that the community could get really creative with it.
Yeah.
The last thing we have for Gossip Button is that Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios Japan is actually just opened, and the Nintendo-themed park and rides have struck a chord with attendees and gamers alike. I would show a video, but this is a podcast, so we can't exactly do that, but take our word, it looks stunning.
And
So-
it is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
I like Nintendo games. They're pretty shit with their community, but I like their games, and I like the art style. So I would go there if I spoke Japanese, but I do not.
Yeah. My aunt was supposed to take me to Japan, but all this happened. But now is an opportune time to go because everything's cheaper and everything's more cleanly. And Nintendo World's open. I don't know if
However-
they have Evangelion World, but the Mario Karts.
However, we can't really go because everywhere has a travel ban on the U.S.
I thought that was lifted.
No.
Oh, dang.
Like, if you want to go to somewhere like New Zealand, you literally have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine and pay for the quarantine.
Oh, yeah, I read that. I saw that somewhere.
Yeah.
New
So, no,
Zealand
we can't
doesn't
go.
have any COVID cases, at least. Like they
Like,
barely have
one
any.
or two. Yeah.
Yeah.
They really cracked down on it.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's all I got for Gossip Glutton. So I think right now we're just going to be talking about stuff.
So we've talked about level design, character, enemy design, weapon design.
Weapon design.
Yeah.
That's interesting because I have a friend who's like made so many weapon ideas. Like he literally has a book full of them. So, and yet I can't like make one for the life of me. And my screensaver just went on because we've been recording for so long and not doing anything. So, my friend, he's really good at making weapon designs. However, not all of them are good. Because like, if you want to make a weapon, you want to make it good. Because like, hey, TF2 is a really good place to see both good and bad weapon designs. You know?
Yes.
So, there's this. So first, we're gonna start off with a good weapon design, and that's gonna be the battalion's backup for me personally. It's basically, for those of you who don't play TF2, it's basically this trumpet where once you deal 450 damage, I'm pretty sure, and you blow the horn, everyone around you and you get 35. I'm pretty sure it's 35 damage resistance to everything, and 50% damage resistance to sentries. And also you get a passive plus 20% plus 20 max health on the wearer, but you don't have a shotgun. So what it does is you sacrifice like a backup damage for more defense and higher effective health pools for your entire team. So it's really good for like pub pushing because those things are
They're very troublesome.
They're very troublesome. And a bad weapon. Oh god, a bad weapon. There's so many. I think I'm gonna go with the sun on a stick.
Oh.
Because it crits people who are on fire. However, the scout cannot light people on fire. So it's reliant on another pyro in your team to light people on fire for you for the weapon to be good. And as a I think it's a downside, I'm pretty sure it has less maximum damage. Let me look that up real quick. I forget.
I think it does. And most people don't play pyro, so if you don't have a pyro on your team, you're pretty screwed with that weapon.
I mean, a lot of people play pyro. Just like they're not very good.
Yeah.
But at least you have damage resistance to fire while deployed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bad weapon example in TF2, because that's what we're using as an example right now, would personally be this. We were talking about the sun on a stick, right? Yeah, talking about the sun on a stick. So at least you get damage resistance to fire. So it's really fucking useless unless you have a friendly pyro on your team, and then you and that pyro have to coordinate so you could light someone on fire, and then you could run in and get a crit, even though it could just do more damage when you just like light them on fire. Okay, so yeah, sun on a stick, bad. And that's all I gotta say about that.
Thank you guys for listening or watching, or if you're on YouTube. The next episode should be next week, and that is all. Thank you.